Islam Makhachev is the greatest fighter in UFC history. After his first title defense as a welterweight and yet another win inside the UFC octagon, Islam Makhachev has just done what no one else in UFC history has done. Legends like Alexander Volkanovski, John Jones, GSP, not even Islam's mentor Khabib could do what Islam just did. Islam Makhachev has just broken Anderson Silva's record for the most consecutive wins in UFC history. The longest win streak in UFC history is now set at 17 wins. Anderson Silva's legendary and historic win streak was capped off at 16 wins on July 6, 2013 against Chris Weidman at UFC 162, meaning it took 13 years for someone to come along and surpass that win streak. As that is exactly what Islam Makhachev did last night against Ian Gary at UFC 330 with a 49-46 decision win. And the craziest part to all of this, I don't think it's ending anytime soon. With this massive win, this record is just another accomplishment for Islam and has put him in uncharted territory for a UFC fighter. Not only is 17 wins crazy enough, but Islam has actually boasted and bragged himself that he wants to get that win streak not just at 17 wins, he wants to get it up to 20 wins. And with this record, I say this with the utmost respect, Islam Makhachev is the GOAT. He's the most accomplished fighter we have ever seen in the UFC, and I really don't think it's close. He has the best resume out of any fighter in their career. He's beaten Volkanovski twice, prime Volkanovski at that. He's beaten Charles, prime Charles. He ended his win streak. Dustin Poirier, a young Arman Tsarukyan, and then when he got to welterweight, he beat JDM for the welterweight gold, and now he beat Ian Gary. This resume is ridiculous. And then to cap it all off, you've got the historic win streak with all of that. No other fighter has a resume that is absolutely leaking with talent like Islam's resume. Not even John Jones, who is a supposed GOAT of the sport. Not to mention you've got all the steroid allegations against John Jones, which Islam, to our knowledge, has none whatsoever. So what's next? A big sigh of relief can be had from the camp of Islam Makhachev because let's not kid ourselves. They definitely knew about the record and the pressure that brought. A record-breaking fight like this, of course, is not just going to be another title defense for Islam Makhachev. There is history on the line here. Of course, there's going to be added pressure on top of it. But now that Islam has the record, he can breathe just a little bit. Although Ian Gary was very, very good, a very talented technician, if you will, he just did not possess a possible threat when it came to finishing Islam. His only path to victory was to beat Islam to the finish line for a decision win, in which he clearly did not. Ian just does not possess that one-punch KO ability like some others in the division do. Like the new #1 contender, Carlos Prates has been KOing his opponents ever since he arrived in the UFC a few years ago, and he's had several highlight reel knockouts after his loss to Ian Gary last year and has rapidly shot up the rankings to #2 with those 3 knockouts. Knocking out Jeff Neal to get back in the win column, followed up by sending Leon Edwards, a former champion, to the Shadow Realm, and then most recently he had his best performance in the UFC. An absolute striking masterclass against JDM, finishing with brutal ground and pound strikes in the 3rd round. Unlike Islam, Carlos actually finished JDM. He didn't just lay on him for 5 rounds. Now, granted, both made it look extremely easy against Jack. There's no denying that. But Carlos does have some bragging rights considering he was able to finish JDM. And so with these 3 knockouts, Carlos Prates has catapulted himself into title contention as the clear #1 contender in my opinion, but also in someone else's opinion. During the post-fight show, Islam actually was asked who he would like to fight next, and he actually said Carlos Prates was the most deserving. He did mention Shavkat and Morales, but he talked about how they were inactive while Prates was the only active one. And not to mention, Prates has the best resume out of those names Islam named. So I definitely think he is the most deserving on top of his activity. The discourse of how Prates had to fight Morales for the #1 contender when Carlos was already the #1 contender, knocking out 2 former champions back to back, was just so disgusting to me. Like, it just made no sense. It's mind-boggling. I still think Morales is 1 fight away, and a perfect fight for him would actually be against Ian Gary. Morales has had some things to say about Ian Gary in the past, and they actually had their little backstage moment last night when Ian confronted Morales for something he said online. But regardless, Carlos Prates possesses something that I don't think Islam has ever fought against. Not even at lightweight. Insane knockout power. At least at welterweight, Islam has never faced anything like this. JDM is more of a volume guy. Ian Gary, like I've said, he's the technician. He's just gonna do everything right with no finishing threat. Although he did make Islam look like a human last night. There is no denying that with just marking up his face. But can you imagine a guy with one punch KO leaving marks on Islam like that? All it takes is one shot for Carlos and it's lights out. So if Carlos can somehow find those shots to Islam's face like Ian did, there is a real possibility we could see Carlos Prates as a welterweight champion. Like, what? I would love that for my man Carlos, but he does have one huge problem. Prates is far and away more easily susceptible to the takedowns than any of Islam's last two opponents. So much so that when Carlos fought Ian, he got taken down 4 times. And even though Ian shot 19 times, those 4 times are going to add up, especially if you're fighting against Islam Makhachev. If Islam Makhachev takes you down 4 times, chances are Carlos Prates did not get up for any of those 4 times, and he just lost 4 straight rounds. But in my opinion, Islam won't be taking down Carlos 4 times, because if he just takes him down, I don't see a world where Carlos does not get submitted. So I don't think Islam's going to have 4 takedowns on him. I don't think it's going to get that far if he is managed to taking him down. This fight will not go the distance. I can guarantee that. It will either end with Islam taking down Prates and submitting him, since Carlos just has 0 ground game whatsoever, or Carlos is actually going to land the punch of his dreams and knock out the #1 pound for pound fighter, not just currently, but of all time. I don't know how he's going to do it. I'm not a coach. I don't pretend to be a coach. But if Carlos could just somehow get it to stay on the feet and just keep his distance, he's just so lanky. He's so tall. He has the size advantage, that's for sure, but he just cannot let Islam get anywhere near him. I know they're 2 similar weight classes, 2 similar fighters, but the fighting styles kind of line up. When Sean O'Malley and Aljamain Sterling fought, Sean just could not let Aljo go anywhere near him because Aljo has the ground game. He has the wrestling, something that Sean does not have, but Sean does have striking, and Sean managed to keep his distance and land a cold and calculated knockout on Aljo, and I'm hoping that Carlos can maybe do the same thing. Granted, Aljo is not Islam, so that's the only asterisk we have there. Regardless, another win in the books for Islam Makhachev. This man is pure greatness. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think Islam is the GOAT after this performance? Do you think he was already the GOAT beforehand, or do you think he is not the GOAT at all and I am just delusional? And let me know, who do you guys think Islam fights next? I think it's going to be Carlos Prates without a doubt, but let me know what you guys think down below.